So this last week, I heard this metaphor about entrepreneurship being like swimming between two islands. This idea that you start on one shore and you're full of energy, full of vision, you're excited about swimming to the other island, and there's just a big reward over there and you can feel it. You can see the other side in the distance and it looks amazing. You're like, yes, I can definitely make that. I can swim it. Let's do it. But then you get out into the middle of the ocean in between these two places and you can't see where you're going anymore. You can't see where you started from, and you can't see where you're going. It's really disturbing. And that's where I'm at right now with my podcast, out in the messy middle. And if you're in that middle space too, and you're not just starting, but you're not quite successful with where you want to be in your podcast, then this episode is for you. Today, I'm walking through one of the big decisions that podcasters have to make, especially if you're an entrepreneur trying to build a business with your podcast. How do I actually monetize my show? How do I do this and not alienate my audience? How do I do this and actually make the show pay for itself and more with a surplus so that I can actually live? We've talked about in the past for me and my goals of retiring my wife and providing a stable income for my family through this. And so in this 90 days, that is a big question I'm trying to tackle, is how do I actually monetize this? Do we go high ticket? Do we go low ticket? Are you even ready to monetize yet? Is my audience big enough to monetize? Maybe these are questions that you're dealing with in your podcast, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to break down the pros and the cons of each approach and share what I'm doing presently or personally, and give you just this practical tool that I came up with in brainstorming for this episode and in thinking about this for myself, called the Next 10 Framework. And I'm really excited to share that with you today. And it's something that you can use to start right away to build out your monetization strategy, and one that actually fits the path and the season that you're in with your audience. So if that sounds like something that would be beneficial for you, that's what we're doing today. Let me take a moment to introduce myself if you're new here. My name is Kaleb, and this is the Podcaster's Journey. And as I mentioned before, this episode is for podcasters who are in the messy middle. This podcast as a whole is about my journey as a podcaster and leaving an open journal in my journey, in a diary of how this has gone for me and a path that others can use and follow in the future. So with that out of the way, let's dive into this and talk about how you can monetize your audience. Okay, as we talk through today about the right steps and the next steps for your monetization of your podcast, let me talk through 3 points with you. Point number one is the myth of your audience size. The going advice around the internet is that you have to have a large following to be able to monetize your audience. And if you're going by traditional methods with sponsorships, with partnerships, with deals, you're going to have a lot of ears on your episode, or eyeballs if they're on YouTube, to be able to land that. If that's the way you're going, then yes, you need to focus on building a large audience. If you're open to other ideas and monetizing your knowledge, if you're a coach, if you're a creative entrepreneur, if you have a business or a product or a service, then you really don't have to have a lot of people. You can do this idea of 1,000 true fans, of where you're just picking up people who are ready to work with you and who find your content valuable. You don't need thousands of listeners to make money. You just need quality conversations. I was meeting with a guy, or I was messaging on Facebook earlier today with an individual who has a podcast, and they're interested in monetization with their podcast. They've done, I don't remember the stats off the top of my head, but they've been doing it for several years. So they've got quite a few episodes, I think close to 100 episodes put out by now. And the presentation of their podcast looks good. But they're only getting about 10 listeners a week on average for their downloads, which isn't a problem. You can still monetize with that, definitely. The problem is, I then asked the individual, the follow-up question is, how engaged are these listeners? Are they, messaging you? Are you having, conversations with these people? And they're not. So that's where the problem comes in for monetization. You can have a small audience. My audience is small right now. I don't have a lot of people, but the part that I need to work on, and what this other individual that I was talking to needs to work on, is getting that engagement up. having conversations and looking at the content to understand, is this providing a lot of value? Historically, this podcast, The Podcaster's Journey, has been 15 to 20 minutes in length. I'm trying to get it closer to like 10 minutes, 10 to 15 at the most in length, so that it's really packing a heavy punch with actionable and quality insights. So think about that for yourself. Make sure that you're giving really high value content to your listeners so that they want to come back and that they're engaging and they're commenting and emailing you, wanting to continue the conversation with you. And they see you as the hero, not the hero, sorry, they are the hero of the story, but they see you as the guide, and they want to ask you more questions about, how do I do this better? If you're doing your content right, it should be leading to questions from the people that you want to help, from your ideal client, from your ideal listener. So just as a reframe real quick, you don't need a massive audience. You just need the right offer for the right people. So think about that as you're building your content. Think about, how is this serving the people that you want to serve? Because that's what it comes down to. Point number 2 is this idea of a high ticket versus low ticket. This idea of reverse engineering the lifestyle that you want to have. So I recently, another video that I was watching on YouTube, I like to learn a lot, as you can tell, and soak up a lot of information. I'm big on self-improvement, sometimes probably to my detriment, and need to go out and just act on this stuff. But I love listening and learning from other people. And I was listening to a friend's YouTube channel and their review on this AI tool for an AI photo tool for real estate photography. And he was just critiquing it at how they were pricing this at a place that didn't make sense. Like, they could get the same results, better results actually, for cheaper elsewhere, with working with humans rather than working with a machine or with AI. And so it really kind of drove home the point for me to understand whether you have a high ticket item or you have a low ticket item, to understand what the market needs, to understand what is beneficial for your ideal listener and what's actually helpful for them. Because if your tool, if your solution, if your skills or your knowledge are actually valuable and actually help people, people are more than willing to hand you their cash to help them. I know from firsthand experience, from a previous work and with work that I'm doing right now on the side to support myself financially, me and my family, through teaching piano lessons. I'm a very good piano teacher, and I've done that for the last 10 years. And I can tell you that when you have a product, when you have your workflow, when you have your skills in line that actually benefit the people who you're trying to serve, and you're actually genuinely serving them, people will line up to pay you money. It's happened to me with teaching music. I've seen it happen to my friend who that I was referencing in his YouTube channel with his real estate business. I've seen it for my business coach. He provides a ton of value, and he attracts people who are more than happy to hand him large sums of cash to solve a problem in their life. So if you're actively solving a problem and you're changing people's lives, people will be happy to pay you money. Whether that's a lot of money, high ticket item, or a little bit of money, low ticket item, it doesn't matter. But you need to understand where your product fits and understand what your audience needs. It's not a matter of one is better than the other. It's a matter of how you're actually helping. I bring into the lifestyle though too, and working backwards for your life with the high ticket and low ticket, and understanding where you want to be. For me, with my family and what I'm trying to build with my wife, I understand that I want to be able to work less and still make a good, healthy living financially, to be able to also have time to spend with my family, with my future children, but also have time to be able to make creative pursuits like music on the side, and not have to worry about if music is paying the bills, or if my family's going to go hungry, or if my wife is going to have to work extra hours to cover for my hobbies. So that's kind of the idea of where you want to work backwards from. So for me, I want to have a high ticket item where I can work with a select group of people that I've been able to kind of vet, and that I've been able to make sure they're a good fit for the programs that I've built, and make sure that it's a good fit for them as well, because I don't want to just take people's money, especially for a high ticket item. I want to make sure that they're going to get the value that I say that they're going to get out of that. So that's what I'm trying to do right now, is develop a high ticket offer be that through a podcast cohort, and also through a done for you service with this kind of stuff for entrepreneurs or businesses who want to really up their game when it comes to podcasting and actually serve their clientele and their customers through podcasting. So that's the way I'm going. I'm also developing this Notion template for podcasters on the back end as well that I'm going to be using in the future as a lead magnet and probably as a low ticket item sometime in the future as well. But so I'm trying to kind of combine those two things, but really with the low ticket item, with this Notion template, I'm honestly so excited about this and super excited to unveil it to you guys when it's ready. I used it today to build this script for the episode, and I feel like I was able to pack more punch and pack more actionable insight because of the template. It's not totally finished, but I am excited to continue to tweak that and to actually make that a tool that will solve busy podcasters' problems. As a side tangent here really quick, just working with some entrepreneurs in their podcast, I'm realizing this, for me, podcasting is the main gig. This is what I get to spend all my time on, is figuring out how to make my podcast better and how to serve other people in their podcasting. But for other people, especially entrepreneurs, podcasting is a tool in their belt of many tools that they have to deploy very quickly. And so I'm just trying to create this Notion template, this podcast dashboard that makes it super simple for podcasters to actually just like from start to finish, from ideation all the way to published, that they've got just a smooth journey to go on every single time to create an episode. So I'll be sharing more about that as time moves on and as this gets more refined. But those are kind of my high ticket and low ticket approaches that I'm doing right now and that I'm building on the back end each week as we go. And you guys will hear more about it, I'm sure, as the weeks unfold and as these become more central in my business. But for right now, that's what I've got. And point number 3 is this next 10 framework. And that's what I was referring to at the beginning of kind of how to solve this monetization problem or how to approach it. It's a 3-step process that I think could really revolutionize for you your monetization strategy. And I would love to hear how it works for you, and I'd even love to work through it with you. So if this is something that you're wanting help on or wanting to talk through together, definitely reach out to me, email, DM on social media, or join one of my social networking groups, and we'll talk about it there. But let's dive into this. So the next 10 framework is basically this idea of making something good for the next 10 people and figuring out how you can serve them. So step 1 is going to be to name your people, name your niche, name your audience. And then from there, you don't have to, like, this is where it gets challenging for some podcasters or for some entrepreneurs, because they're like, I don't totally know what niche I'm serving or who I'm actually serving. And I totally get it. I can totally relate. I've spent the last, probably about a year almost trying to figure out what this business looks like. And I'm just now starting to get some clarity on it. So be okay with that tension, but stay in that tension and continue to fight through it and work through it as you're trying to name your people and figure out what your clear niche is. Just sketch out who your content resonates with right now, who you're trying to speak to, continue speaking to them, and continue to whittle this down. Ask, who's been the most engaged in my audience? Who do I love serving? Who asks for help and shares my content? Focus on those people. Really serve those people well. If you're serving those people well, then you're going to attract more people like them. And I think the question above, who do I love serving, is a really key question to ask yourself as you're trying to find your people and to name them. Because maybe you have a niche or an audience right now, but you don't love interacting with them or you don't love solving the problem that they have. It's totally fine. Just understand that you're not in the niche that you want to be and start trying to move the dial towards where you want to go, who you love serving, kind of going back to also designing your own life and where you want to be. So think about who you want to serve and where you want to be as well. And it isn't your forever niche. It's just identifying the kind of people that you'd love to help again. Step 2, go have a conversation with those people. Go figure out what they need the most. Ask them what's slowing them down. Ask them what's hindering them. This is kind of where the Notion template came from. I've tried to build this out for myself in Google Sheets before. It's kind of clunky. I didn't really use it. I used it for like half of season 1, but it never really ever got fully completed, and I didn't finish my journey every single time. So I was leaving money on the table, quote unquote, when it came to actually finishing my content. So and all that to say, after working with an entrepreneur in his podcast, I was like, man, I really need to figure out this workflow thing and like figure out ideation all the way to promotion so that podcasters have a clear journey and a clear tactic and workflow to work through these things and do this in a way that's not going to slow them down. It's not going to stress them out. And it's going to provide clarity and systems so that they can provide confidence for these people. All that to say, you need to go out and you need to talk to your customers or your listeners and figure out what's slowing them down, what's stressing them out, what's causing them not to have clarity, what systems do they need, what tech do they not understand, where are they lacking their confidence, and fix those things for them. It's as simple as that. And then figure out the transformation journey that these people want to go on and provide them that transformation journey. These people will be happy to pay you money to go on that journey if you can genuinely provide them the resources they're looking for. So that's step 1 is naming your people. Step 2 is clarifying what those people need. And step 3 is build and refine just one offer for them. Figure out what problem you want to solve for them. Get into the nitty-gritty details of that problem. Totally understand it. Come from their angle and figure out how to fix it for them. High ticket example for me, like we've already talked about, would be just went blank on the name, the cohort, or I've done for you kind of thing, setting this up, or even consulting, coaching, one-on-one, low ticket item. We've already talked about what I'm doing with that Notion template. Could be guides, toolkits, something that actually makes your listeners' life easier and better. And that can go for you as well in what you're doing. Don't worry about scale right now. Don't worry about how are you going to make $1 million. Just figure out how to make something good for the next 10 people. So real quick to clarify, that's the step 1 is name your people. Step 2 is to find out what they need the most. And step 3 is to refine one offer for them. Figure out how to actually solve it for them, solve it, and then present them with the solution. And figure out how that's going to make something good for the next 10 people. So if this episode resonated with you, I'm super glad that it did, and you're in the right place, because this is exactly the journey that I'm going to be going on over the next 90 days. This is week 2 of this 90-day journey, and I am thrilled to be on it. I'm in the same messy middle that you are. I'm figuring it out. I don't have it figured out yet. I haven't come out on the other side, and I'm not where I want to be with this podcast right now. But I'm hoping by the end of the 90 days to be closer. I don't know if I'll be totally there. That's part of the transparent journey. I would love to be there in 90 days. But the fact of the matter is, sometimes life takes longer than 90 days. Journeys are bigger than 90 days sometimes. But I'm excited to see where 90 days will take us. I'd love to stay connected and hear from you. So reach out to me, email. Links to my social media are down in the description. Please reach out. Would love to continue this conversation. I am in need of your insight and your input for this, though. Specifically, I'm trying to go back and forth between this idea of really building out a free group for community to answer and have more conversation with like-minded individuals, either in a Facebook group or in a LinkedIn group. So I would love to hear from you and understand where you would prefer to hang out, to have more in-depth conversations about these kinds of things, or just read more of my thoughts about these kinds of things. Would it be Facebook or LinkedIn? If you're on YouTube, just drop it in a comment, LinkedIn or Facebook. If you're listening to this on a podcasting app, then there's a link to my social media. Please go send me a DM. I'd love to hear from you and understand more about what would serve you better as a creative entrepreneur and a podcaster. Yeah, so that is basically it. Take this Next 10 framework for a spin. See what you think. Love to hear about it. And until next time, guys, happy podcasting.